Good day, everyone. My name is Mr. E. Thompson. I will be giving you a introduction into SketchUp and for production design. As you know, I'm the production design lecturer on the Port Elizabeth campus. And just to start off, I'm going to give you a few notes. Just in general, a standard flats dimensions are 1830 millimeters in length, 79 millimeters in width, and then 2750 millimeters in height. So that's 1.83 meters by 7.9 centimeters by 2.75 meters. So why that's important is just so that you know what you can expect to start using as a standard size for when you want to start using SketchUp models. However, the size of the flats are going to vary, and what we're going to be doing today. So as you'll see, I'll be pointing out that when it comes to SketchUp, I generally look at a 7.9 centimeter to 10 centimeter thickness for flats, but I go for a 10 centimeter thickness or 100 millimeter thickness for leeway purposes. Then looking at the flats that we generally use on the PE campus, it's 1500 millimeters in length as opposed to the 1830. This was because previous lecturers thought it would be better for due to the size of the studio that we do have. So for the purposes of this exercise, I'll be using the 1500 by 79 by 2750 flats, which have been pointed out. We'll get into it a bit later. However, just so that you do note, there are some custom flats that were made, such as a window flats, and then other smaller flats, which are the same as the regular flats, except the difference is the length is 800 millimeters, which we'll get into later. The standard door frame and door dimensions that we'll be using today are the door frame is, as you can see, 863 millimeters in length, 76 millimeters in width or breadth, and then 2100 millimeters in height. And then the door is 813 millimeters by 45 millimeters by 2032 millimeters. So these are just important things so that you know, kind of using you can use these as a standard guide point, but do know that door sizes do often change. These are just the ones that we have on campus and use regularly. Please also note that when you do a set build, you put in things called A-frames or braces. So those generally have a base length of 900 millimeters away from your flat. So always take that into account when designing your sets. You will need to have at least 900 millimeters or 90 centimeters away from your flat so that they can support all of your flats. Then the general window that we'll be using is a 1630 millimeter by 56 millimeter by 635 millimeter. And then I have also created my own custom flat, which was using a header and a footer, and then installing the window into it, which is then 1730 by 79 by 275. So now that we have that out of the way, the whole idea for this exercise is we'll be doing a 4.5 meter by 4.75 meter sets, but there will be some alterations made. So without further ado, let's get up into SketchUp. So when you open up SketchUp, you'll see you'll have a bunch of different templates. Please not these recent files, because those are my own models, which I will show you later. The best and the standard, which we do tend to use in production design, or at least from my side, is architectural millimeters, because working in millimeters is the best for accuracy purposes, and honestly I just prefer it that way. However, you can do which way is best you choose, but for the purposes of this exercise we'll be doing architectural millimeters. But as you can see, I already have SketchUp running in the background, so without further ado, let's get into it. So as you'll see in the background here, I already have my door and my window assets ported in. These will just come in later as I will be showing you. So As you'll see here, we have the select tool, the eraser tool, the line tool, which is for drawing lines. Then I'm just going to skip over a few of these just so that we can get to the basics ones we'll be using for this lesson. Then for the shapes tools, I generally use the rectangle for helping me draw the sets, as you'll see soon enough. Then the other important ones will be the push-pull tool, the offset tool, and then the movement tool. And then your measurements, your paint, then your orbital and your pan tools. These are very important. So for those of you working on Windows, the shortcut keys for the orbital tool and the pan tool is H for pan. As you'll see here, it's a little hand, and then O for orbital. So if you have a 3-key mouse, which is a mouse with 2 buttons and then the wheel, you can just press down the wheel and it will bring you into the orbital tool. And then to go back to select, you press spacebar, but that's for a different time. So without further ado, if you go into camera, you can then see standard views. Generally, I work in top view because it makes it a lot easier, which you'll see now. So we go into our top view and we will move over to our little person over here. Just note that the person will come as different in different models, but this is a standard male. They're just there for height reference, nothing really else. So now you'll see we go into the shape tool and use the rectangle. And now I generally like to use the origin point, which you'll see is right here at this axis. So as you'll see when I move this along, in the bottom right hand corner, you'll see dimensions in millimeters. So there's 2 dimensions. One, as you can see, I'm moving my mouse to the right, and that then you know is your length. And then the secondary number will be your width, which is extending outwards. So instead of doing this and trying to find your exact measurements, all we do is we have our figures, which is 4,500 millimeters in length, and then our width will be 4,730 millimeters. And then you hit enter, and it makes your flat. So now please note, this is going to be the inside of your set. Then this is where the offset tool comes in. So you go up to your model, you'll see it's highlighted, and then you'll see a little red square. Now you click on it, and then you drag it outwards, and then all you do is type in 100 millimeters. As you recall, we use the 100 millimeters as the thickness for the flats, which is what we'll just be rolling with for now, just for leeway purposes. And you press enter, and then you'll see you now have your extended walls. Then press your select tool, and then double click and make sure everything is highlighted. And then you'll go into your movement tool. You take it, and there, I just like doing this for simplicity's sake, and then you move that into your origin sector. So now what we're going to do is, just for this purpose, you'll note that when you make a set, you don't have 4 walls, which is where the push-pull tool comes in. So the push-pull tool can also be accessed by the hotkey of using P. However, as you can see now with the highlighted section, you're creating a complete box, or a box without a roof. So press escape to prevent that from happening. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your hand tool, or your pan tool rather, and just zoom in, and then you're going to cut off this wall here by using your line tool. So you just go over here, and then you cut that edge, and then you cut that edge. Just going back to your measurement tool just to make sure that your inward still measures 4730, and then your length still measures 4500. So now note that this 4500 is 3 flats, and then this 4730 is just for the purposes of 2 1500 millimeter flats, and then including a 1730 window flat, which will then come into play. So now what we'll do is let's say for this purpose that the window will be on the right and the door will be on the left. So we will come to this point here and then measure out 1500 millimeters. So all you do is you get your line tool. Generally, you don't have to do this. You can just use your measurement tool and then run it like this. So find that midpoint and you'll see a line, type 1500. For this exercise, I suppose this is the most simple, 1500 millimeters, and then you press enter. And this is then the length of one flat. So then you get your line tool and then you use it to cut this wall into a piece. So let's zoom in quickly. So there and there, then press escape, sorry, and then there and there. So why I'm doing this is it's going to help you in the long run. So then get your measurement tool again, and then now we're going to go, no, take your line tool, my apologies. You can just press L. And then you're going to measure out 863 millimeters. Then you're going to drag your cursor along this line until you find a green dot. That's your endpoint. And then you click on it, and then you do another line to the side here. And then you seal it off. Why this is important is now that we've created where the door will be going. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to do the same, but now this will be for the window. So now we measure out 1730 millimeters, press enter. And then we come out, and we found the endpoint, and then create another line. So where this side is going to be different to that side is you'll notice that this side is comprised of a 1.5, a 1730, and then a 1.5. Whereas on this side, you got a 1.5, a 863, and then now we're going to measure out 1.5. So let's drag this out, 1500 millimeters, enter, and then we cut it off there. So why this is important is now we're going to note that this side does not exactly equal the opposite side. This will happen, so generally what we will then do is, when shooting, we will just use this as a cutoff point right here, this line over here. However, it then gives leeway for if you shoot through the door, you have a bit of extra length on this so that you don't go off the set. So always keep that in mind. I'm just going to erase this line here. So now this is where the push-pull tool comes in handy. So we then go and we can just erase this measurement line now because it's no longer needed. So now we'll go to the push-pull tool and then click the highlighted area and raise it up. And then you simply type 2750 millimeters and press enter. So now we have the height of our flat. Then we will find the other 1.5 meter flat, type in 2750, enter. And then we found the other 1.5 meter flat, raise it up, 2750 millimeters. So now you're going to say, but now why is there a gap between these? So the reason for that is to make it easier to port our assets into this. So now what I know is the highest point for my door is the door frame, which is 2100 millimeters. So now what I do is I will take my line tool, measure up 2100 millimeters, then find this green point, the end point. Oh, a very important thing to note is that when your line is green or red, it means it is going straight and it is level. So please pay attention to that. If it looks like this, where it's black, it means you're going off, you're going crooked, and it does affect your model. So please keep in mind of always keeping your line straight. So now what we do is we go find our door, which I already have the model, which I already have ported into here as an asset. Then I use my movement tool and bring it in. And now you can see the whole door is highlighted in blue. And then you find these red crosses, which you can then use to rotate it. And then we will move it into the space. So then what you can do is just zoom in and find this point, and then when you see it on the green dot, it says it's completely level. So now when we zoom out, we can see the doors at the right height. So then all we simply do is we click on this portion of the wall, which is now highlighted. Then we use our push-pull tool, extend the wall, close it up, and then we just click on the lines and press delete again, and then again. As you can see, my door is slightly too wide for the has a higher length than a higher width, sorry, than my flat. So all I do is just highlight it and then click on the scale tool. Then I just extend it forward, line it up with the edge, and then voila, my door is correct. So now you're wondering, where can you get these assets? So you'll see here there's a 3D warehouse. You can simply go into the 3D warehouse and it's completely filled with different assets. This is something we'll get into at a different point. So just for right now, let's stay focused on this. So now I come into my window flat. So now when it comes to the window flat, the dimensions you don't have are something that I do have. So when it comes to, this was created in 3 pieces. So I will go to my push-pull tool and I'll pick this up. And the 1.7, the 1730 length flat is also at a height of 2750. So what I did was I created a footer. So the base of the window will then be 975 millimeters. We then bring in our window. However, the one thing to do note is that this wall here will need to come in by 5. We need 5 centimeter braces on the side to seal in the window. So what I will do is I'll take the height of the window, which is 935, which I will then use my orbital tool just to move. I will zoom in and I will select at this endpoint and type in 935 millimeters. Then I'll press enter. And I will try and find my endpoint, which is right here. And then I will do the same on this side. Which I will then use my push-pull tool and come out by 50 millimeters on each side. This was made when I was making the frame. I put 2 pieces of wood to hold the window in place, but also to give it a bit of a distance between the 2 walls. So I'll just bring this forward. I will then rotate it. And please note, you'll see the line is green. That's important to know that it's also level and correct. So we will then grab by the edge, and then you'll see it fits perfectly into it. It lines up correctly. So now all we do is select one of the 1.5 meter flats. We use our push-pull tool. We extend it, connect them. and then just erase the lines. Just to make it a solid flat. Sorry, I'm using some of the hotkeys, so please just bear with me. It's just second nature at this point. And there you go. There's a set, just completely blank. Please do note that if you then, what you then need to remember is, don't forget that in the center of each of these will be a brace, which extends out by 900 millimeters. So just take that and then top 900 millimeters. Then you can just take it up by 150 millimeters. No. Sorry. By 50 millimeters. And then just take it back to the wall. So then you can at least then say, hey, everyone, this is how far, at least how far away from the wall that you must be. So there you go. There's a little standard flat set. It's pretty basic. I can take you into the warehouse quickly just to show you like a variety of assets. So for example, let's say you wanted to find a couch. I'm just waiting for it to load. So as you'll see, as it pops up, I do apologize for my internet connection, like you'll see a variety of assets in here. So like I'm looking at a bed right now. So let's say we want a couch. Type in couch, and trust me, the more specific you are with the better it can be. So I'm just going to pull out any random couch that I see here. So how about this one here? I'll just pour, which I can't use right now because I'm not signed in. But essentially, I can just pour it in the couch and then do it from there. So those of you who are watching this and are at the PE campus, what I can show you is right here is a model of the outside Film Studio 2, the one that we standardly build in. So what I can then show you is, if I go back into this model that we just made, then I just select everything. So I double click and make sure everything's selected. I can then say make group, and then it groups everything together. I can then just copy, paste it into our set, and then you can see what it's like in the studio. So as you can see, the doors didn't come with it, and the door and the window didn't come with it, unfortunately. So it's a bit tedious getting it to work around. SketchUp is something that takes many hours of practice. So I do apologize for all of this. Can't even think of the word right now. Sorry. All of this monkeying about, if we can say that. Oh my gosh. Can you listen to me? Thank you. So yeah, just make sure that as you can see, the line is blue at the moment. That means it's going directly down. And I'm just going to keep it slightly off the ground, otherwise you'll see that happens. So there you go. That is how the set would look like in the studio as it currently is. As you can see, it does not fit because of this portion of the wall here. So let's see what happens when we move it over. We are just on the boundary of this. So generally, you build a set according to the space that you're in. Ideally, you wouldn't build a set this big because you would like to have at least, I'd say, about between 1.5 meters to 2 meters away from your wall, just for putting lights in there, doing some general lighting, making sure it's safe to walk through. However, that's just going by a standard rule I like to follow. and then you'll see here it does overlap slightly with the door, so you want to make sure this doesn't happen. However, for those of you that are familiar with this space, there is actually a gate that comes here. So we definitely wouldn't build a set that overlaps to this extent. So yeah, that's just a little fun exercise for you guys to look at. So what I'm going to show you just now is how to, for those of you that can't access SketchUp, I will create another video just to show you how you can access it online. It's a lovely, it's free. SketchUp has a free model software online. You do need to use the internet for it, however, unfortunately, but it's great. So in the next upload, I will cover that. So yeah, for now, that's that. I think this lesson's gone on a bit long. So as you can see here, this has nothing in it. So let me just quickly delete that and go back into here. So then if you want to not make everything a group, you just go explode. It comes like this. So highlight that, then hold the shift key, select the door, select the window, right click, make a group. So now you'll see when I move it, everything moves. But if I was to, let's say, explode this quickly, and let's say I just highlight the entire set without selecting the window or the door, and I moved it, the set will move, the window won't. So if you're moving something and you've done it accidentally, just hit the escape key and it will unmove it, as long as you haven't clicked the and moved it elsewhere. Otherwise, Control Z to undo, or Control Z, whichever you prefer. Okay, so I think that's enough for this particular model. I will now redo the model using the exact measurements we used for the first year set that is currently in the space. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, queries, or concerns, you may DM this Instagram page or comment, however you wish to get in contact, and I will then address your concerns in the next air quotes episode. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.